kingdom is like a little mustard seed that becomes a mighty oak. Today is Martin Luther King's birthday. It's also the first show we're doing. And the reason we're doing this first show today is because it is so relevant to the hidden kingdom. We're going to learn all about how this works and how the hidden kingdom works and how we Christians need to be involved in our society. But before we do that, we want you to know a little bit about Lee and I, because Lee and I have done lots and lots of things, and most of you don't know who Lee is. Lee, actually we call her Lee because she just adopted that name from different situations. But she's going to tell you a little bit about her history. She's my wife of 46 years.
And plus 40 plus years of working together as Christian missionaries. We started out working in public schools, ministering to students and parents alike. We've published a newspaper for both public schools and homeschools. As a matter of fact, we homeschooled before it was even popular or people knew what it was.
We were out there with Phyllis Schlafly talking about homeschool and the number of homeschoolers and traveling around the country. Although we were working in public school, we're telling people, get your kids out of here. This is dangerous.
Go to homeschool. Yeah. And it was a wonderful experience. And then later on, as our children grew up, we had a zoo where we taught character to students and teachers and everyone. We really enjoyed that. Now we're kind of semi-retired, but we still have the desire to reach out and teach people. So that's what we're trying to do with this show.
Actually, that's one of our great goals. Is as we retired, we said, what can we still do? Because we still have.
Because we didn't want to just sit and watch TV for the rest of our living days.
Yeah, we're still on earth, and the Lord is still active, and our retirement comes in heaven. So we decided to take all those books and all that missionary work and all that experience and all these events of traveling around the country and put them into this production.
And that's what we're hoping to do.
Kingdom. So today, because it is Martin Luther King's birthday, I really wasn't planning on starting the show today, but I got to reading a tremendous article by Star Parker. And I've been following Star Parker on Town Hall for quite a long time. I've seen her on a couple of interviews. And Star was a welfare mom who was living as many black people do in the ghetto. And she began to get that they were making this a plantation.
By get, you mean understand.
Understand. She began to get it.
Yeah.
And she began to educate herself and work on her own and become fruitful, as opposed to setting and having someone else become her keeper. She didn't want anybody to keep her. She wanted to keep herself. Mm-hmm. Kind of like a zookeeper keeps the animals, but we don't keep people.
But we're not animals.
We're not animals.
People are not animals.
That's right. And we don't put people in zoos. And we'll talk more about that as part of our theme that we'll be dealing with. But now she's the head of a 501c3 think tank. She travels all over the country. She represents the public policy fight on poverty in the United States. And she's written a book called Uncle Sam's Plantation.
She's come quite a ways from being a welfare mom.
Yeah, and the theme of this book is how big government enslaves American poor and what we can do about it. And why I like this, she gets the concept of the hidden kingdom. And she kind of, in this editorial, and Lee's going to read you parts of the editorial, because it tells you how this is happening. How we're being deceived, so we can't see the hidden kingdom.
Okay,
but this is Star Parker's editorial.
This editorial she did. What we have is the ongoing march forward of tyranny in America, a tyranny of the left, in which moral chaos and political power are becoming a new national religion.
Now that's a very important point here. She calls it a tyranny of the left. I call it we'll be seeing it's a tyranny of the secularist, which was secularism was founded by George Jacob Holyoake in 1850. And it is what the left is doing. And she calls it a religion because secularism was founded by atheists for the purpose of furthering atheism, to draw in the liberal-minded Christians to further atheism. And that's what's happening.
Well, to just restate this, moral chaos and political power are becoming a new national religion.
That's amazing. Now, this founding person was George Jacob Holyoake, and I don't know if I mentioned him, but there's a picture of him up on the screen. You can see him.
And what was once understood as religion and tradition is now called bigotry and pushed off the stage.
And she's referring to Christianity.
Mm-hmm. One wonders if Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose birthday coincides with this second inauguration of America's first black president, would not himself wind up today pushed off the stage because of his Christian convictions. A hint of how to think about this may be gleaned by visiting the new memorial in Washington, D.C., honoring King. Visiting the memorial, what immediately struck this black Christian was the complete absence of any hint that King was a Christian pastor who founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and who led a movement animated and inspired by biblical conviction and imagery. No, the Dr. King celebrated at this memorial on the National Mall is a political activist and community organizer.
Now that's very important because the there's nothing wrong with being a political activist. There's nothing wrong with being a political organizer.
Community organizer.
But if that's all there is, see, what they've done is they've taken only that. Now, what's interesting about this, and the reason I saw this, as Lee and I traveled, we did character development shows in many black schools around the country. About 40% of everything we did was in black schools. And in that, we began to see this changing of the teaching of Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was viewed historically as the man who actually his great phrase was, I dream of the time when men will be judged by their character, not the color of their skin.
Yeah.
And I began to see that being replaced with Marxist socialist ideas or secular ideas. And we're going to talk about this more as we develop the new man and we develop the Marxist man and we develop the idea of the Rand man. Because these three things are the three religions that are competing with each other today. But here in her thing, she sees clearly that they are only portraying Martin Luther King as a secular man.
A political activist and a community organizer.
But he wasn't.
Totally taking his religious beliefs and life and throwing it aside.
Totally taking out the hidden kingdom.
Right.
So you can't see it. And see, Jesus talked he had many quotes, almost 50, that he quoted about the kingdom of God is hidden. But you can find it. It's not hidden mysteriously so no one can find it. If
in
you'll
a deep,
look,
dark cave.
If you'll look,
you have to
can
open
see
your
it.
eyes,
Yeah, it's
your
like
ears.
It's like a mustard seed that becomes a mighty tree, and then the birds come and light on it. And the secularists are now trying to claim all the credit that Christianity has brought into Western civilization, and it's very serious. And this is what this show's about. But I want to read more about Parker here.
Okay, she goes on to say, try to find a hint that this was a pastor. Try to find a biblical
Now, this is at the
quote.
memorial. This
Right.
is at the memorial.
Try to find a reference to God. Absent is the Dr. King who concluded his I Have a Dream speech on the same National Mall, pleading for the day when all of God's children will be able to join hands and sing the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty we are free at last. In King's famous letter written in 1963, while locked in a jail in Birmingham, Alabama, beginning with the salutation, "My fellow clergymen," he asks the question, how does one determine whether a law is just or unjust? The answer given by King was this: a just law is a man-made code that squares with a moral law or the law of God.
Now that is significant because this is what the secularist is trying to get rid of. They're trying to say that it is the moral code that helps most people, or it is the moral code that protects the individual so he can do anything he wants. These are both the Marxist man and the Rand man, which we're going to study more about. But the Christian new man, which is what Martin Luther King really represented. The idea that there is a kingdom that is hidden, but we can discover it and bring it into society. And that's why our system doesn't start with man. It starts with the Creator. And the evidence of that is our Declaration of Independence. It says, because of the Creator, all men have certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
I was thinking when we worked with youth, we had mixed. We had Caucasian, we had Hispanic, we had black, and there was tensions there. And one of the things that we taught them was what Martin Luther King said, that it's character that makes the man, not the color of his skin. And when they understood that, they began to see the other youth as people, not just a color of their skin.
And this was very important because this is what Thomas Jefferson saw. Although Thomas Jefferson wasn't what we would call a fundamentalist Christian, he did believe in the Bible's principle of that we all come from the Creator. That's what he wrote in the Declaration of Independence. And that therefore we were all of one flesh. We shouldn't be divided up into tribes or color of skin. We should be one nation, that we're made up of God's creation.
And that's
God's
one of the
children.
things that makes America so unique and different.
That's right.
And special.
And that's where Star Parker, have you read the whole
Yes,
quote?
I did. I read the
Star
whole quote.
Parker did a really excellent job here in describing what is taking place in our culture, specifically at the Martin Luther King Memorial. And they have actually had to rewrite some of it because even many of the secularists are even upset.
Yeah, they didn't state.
But even in the area of art, as we're looking here at this picture of Martin Luther King is so much not the character of Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was not a stubborn, mean man, as this stone in granite looks like.
Yeah, he looks more like Stalin or something.
That's exactly right.
Statue.
This is Lee has got it, because this is the art of the Soviet Union. This is the art of Mao Zedong.
Yeah.
This is not the art of the New World. The New World demanded a new man, and Martin Luther King was a new man. He was a Christian pastor, and his great letter was talking to other pastors that they were to lead as pastors should in social action to bring about liberty for all. And men should be judged not by the color of their skin, not by their nationality that they come from or their country they're from, but by the content of their character. And this is what the Hidden Kingdom is all about. We're going to be talking more and more about how these ideas are hidden, but they don't have to be. They're only hidden from those who do not want to know and they want to suppress the truth.
So in other words, if you have ears to hear and eyes to see, you can understand.
So join us again. Tell your friends about our show, and we'll be seeing you soon. Be able to see us at Simple Life Abundant Living, or you'll be able to eventually search us out at the Hidden Kingdom also.